All right, here we go.
It's a real Zoom up session. Make it perfect, Jen.
Perfection.
All
Hey, friends.
lines.
All right, here we go. Thanks for joining. Special guest, our teacher and former student, well, former apprentice, Brian Knoll. Say hi.
Welcome, Brian.
Say hi to the crowd, Brian.
Hello. A pleasure to be here.
So we asked Brian to come on to our YouTube Live because, first of all, Brian is a teacher here at Tejas. And some people, he teaches in the morning, so you might not have seen him before if you don't make it to the morning classes. He teaches a 10:30 general class on Tuesdays. Brian's a great teacher. And he also went through our apprenticeship program. And you know, it's pretty rare that we bring on a teacher that doesn't have years of experience teaching yoga already. But Brian really was an exceptional apprentice. Even before, I knew he was going to be in the apprenticeship program because when he first started coming to Tejas, Brian would go to like all different kinds of classes. He would go to my strength and mobility classes, he'd go to James' open classes, he'd go to James' intro to yoga classes, he'd go to James' gentle classes, he would go all kinds of classes. And when I knew back in 2001, when I knew I wanted to be a yoga teacher, that's what I did. I went to as many classes as I could because I figured I needed to teach a lot of different levels of students with different levels of experience and capabilities and things like that. So I went to a lot of classes just so I got that experience. I could see that Brian was going to do that. And sure enough, I asked him one day and he's like, I don't know, maybe about a month later, he's like, I want to do that. So Brian did that right after we opened up after lockdown, I think, right, Brian? Was it 2021?
Yeah.
When you started coming to Tejas? And yeah, he was a class every day. We got kind of sick of him being around all the time.
What can you do?
So we just figured he's here so much, we need to have him start teaching. So I was a teacher here at Tejas. But we also want him to come along on here because, as you might have seen, the topic that we're covering today is the apprenticeship program. James is going to go over in great detail later. But we figured we'd ask Brian, first of all, tell us more about yourself though, Brian. Tell us, when you're not teaching and practicing yoga, what else do you do?
Outside of here, I'm pursuing acting, love going to see shows, see theater, and then I like to read, and I love going to the lake, going out to Lake Michigan, and just like being by the water is like one of my like peaceful me time things.
Do you go in the water?
Sometimes I'm always a bit iffy about it, but if I have people to convince me, I'll go in the water.
And I'm actually going to put Brian's website, because he does a lot of other things in addition to that. I'm going to put Brian's website in the chat if you want to check out more about Brian right now. I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, some of the other things I do is personal training. And then I've been working at Stretch Lab doing one-on-one assisted stretching. So I do a lot of fitness and just wellness, taking care of the body. And now I'm coordinating all of that together and creating my own position called a Vitality Coordinator. And that's been in the works and it's coming together. So I'm excited for that moving forward.
So you've created like a position or like a title that hasn't really existed, right?
No, it doesn't exist yet.
I love that. Right? It's Vitality Coordinator.
Yes.
Okay. So it's kind of like you're like Julie on the Love Boat for somebody's body. Like you get to coordinate and like help them.
He's
find
much
out.
younger than us. You might not know what the love boat is.
Do you know what the Love Boat is? Do you know Julie, the cruise director of the Love Boat?
I don't know Julie
Oh my
specifically,
God.
but I do know of Love Boat.
More and more people have to start Googling things that come like into my presence because of the references that I made. So yeah, that won't hit the same as somebody that does know who the Love Boat is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's fantastic. So you can pull from all these different resources that you've studied and trained in to help one individual find a combination of things that are going to work best for them to reach their goals, essentially.
Yes.
So how does that work? Do you meet with them? Do you have a consultation with them first? Like, give me the rundown. If I come up to you and I'm like, I want more vitality, and I heard you're a vitality coordinator, what's your first step with me?
My first step would be putting you through a corrective exercise assessment just so I can see where your imbalances lie physically. And then from there, having a discussion with you and seeing which modality is the best to work with in order to get you to feeling better in your body, and then helping find more ways for you to express yourself creatively as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
so that's a big proponent of it.
Getting you to express yourself more creatively.
But I think fitness and wellness can be your anchor into your body to like help you get there first. So that's sort of building the foundation for your expression.
All right, nice.
That's great. So Brian, tell us, and it was 3 years ago, I guess, tell us about your experience in the apprenticeship program.
I loved it. Absolutely. I feel like even to this day, every time I take the class, I learn something new. That's one of the things that drew me here. You mentioned how I was taking all sorts of different types of classes. I just always felt like, I was learning something new, and I always felt so great after. And then I originally had reservations because like most of the work I do is like one-on-one. And so you two convinced me that I can be in front of a group, and now I can be.
It's so funny to me because as an actor, you're in front of groups.
Yeah, but that's different.
Performing all the time.
You have a script, you have like months of build up.
Lots of yoga teachers have scripts. I wouldn't say we're contagious, but it's pretty common for yoga teachers to have scripts. And I actually thought this too. In case you don't know what our apprenticeship program is, it's basically our version of a teacher training program, but it's one-on-one, individualized for the specific person as opposed to a group teacher training. Sorry.
No. Yeah.
So going off that, and then we'll kind of have you chime in, Brian, when we start reaching certain points, because I think it's nice to hear from somebody that's gone through the program, because we have this program laid out, but the reality of it is everybody's going to kind of get involved in it at two different levels, right? They're going to get whatever they're going to get out, whatever they kind of put into it in that regard. But we really like working with people one-on-one for a lot of reasons, but one of those reasons is we felt like people didn't slip through the cracks as much as with the group. When we had group trainings, we felt like, if you got 15 people in a group, you've got some people that were really heavily involved in doing all the readings and showing up to a lot of classes, and then you've got some people that kind of will do the bare minimum, and then they kind of fall off. And even when you try to pull them in and get them re-engaged, it's like more difficult because you don't always have this kind of one-on-one accountability like we do with people when we're just working with them one-on-one. Even though we might have 10 people in the program at one time, we still feel like that we have a stronger connection with the student that's in training when we're doing one-on-one sessions with them. And so how did you feel? Because one of the things people have questions about is they want a group dynamic. They want the camaraderie. They want to be able to do this in a group. And so they feel like sometimes what I've gotten in terms of people asking us about the program is, will that be lacking? So my question to you is, how did you feel about that one-on-one interaction? Is that something that ended up being really appealing to you and you felt was really beneficial, or did you feel like you kind of missed out on like a group dynamic?
I felt like I really enjoyed the one-on-one dynamic and being able to go at my pace, but also having other students in the program who were also like having similar experiences. And like, even though we weren't like in an official group, we still like all knew each other. We were all at the workshops, and like we did have like that group experience, and that was nice.
Good.
And like even just like being able to meet up and like go through like some of the like study for some of the asanas. I had a couple of those with some of the other students. And so that was just a matter of like us coordinating. And yeah, I found that really helpful to have as a resource. And then being able to focus on what I was like witnessing and being able to see like the changes week to week, particularly the observation hours, I found very helpful, and being able to like actually see classes. And I didn't think that would be as helpful as it was, but then like going through it, I was like, oh, this is like nowhere else do I get this opportunity, and this is like really
It's
like,
super helpful.
yeah.
And friends at home that are watching live, if you have questions for Brian or us in the apprenticeship program, feel free to type it in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on the chat.
So yeah, one of the things about the apprenticeship program as well is each student gets one class that they observe and assist in, and for the foundational training for a whole 12 months. So you're choosing one class a week to show up to and observing that class, really just observing for the first maybe couple of months, few months. But then, once you start learning assisting and adjusting, getting better with verbal cueing, and getting more familiar with the postures, then you're walking around the room and helping the teacher assist and giving people verbal cues, or maybe doing a physical adjustment if it's appropriate. But that in-class hour time, I think, is very unique to our program. I don't know a lot of other programs where you're getting 12 months every week of being in a class to observe different body types, listening to the teacher's verbal cueing, paying attention to sequencing. So throughout the whole year, you get to gradually absorb and assimilate all the things that you're taking in class, and then start to apply it into your own practice, or when you start practice teaching in the class that you're observing in. You also create kind of a rapport, I guess, with the students that come to that class more regularly. And that definitely happened. Like, a lot of people knew who you were, within the last, within the first few months. And then when you did practice teach, that, the idea is that it helps to boost your confidence about getting up in front of a group of people that strangers know. And so, that opportunity is rare, and I think it's so important because I feel like programs that we've been in, they teach you the technique, but then they just kind of throw you to the wolves, and you're teaching in front of a group of people you don't know, or you've never seen before. You don't know their practices, and I think it's a lot scarier. And so we try to set you up for success in that way. Where it gives you a little bit more of a platform that you're more relaxed and comfortable in. So tell us a little bit about your first experience teaching a whole class here at Tejas, whether it was like in one of our classes or a class on your own. Do you remember if you taught a whole class with one of us in class with you?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
taught a whole class. Yeah.
I mean, it was scary. But it's like you wanted to go well, you wanted to be right, but at the same time, it was like also very like freeing, and it's like, oh, yeah, I can do this, and like not everything landed how I thought it would, but then like that was okay. And then like I discovered things while teaching, and it's like, oh, I find out cues that I think I articulated well, just like didn't quite land how I thought it would. And then that just gives the opportunity to either try a new cue or just like take note of that and then change it the next time you teach. And yeah, and then it's also just like very nice not having to like to have another guy in the room, just so that I don't feel like I'm left alone. Or like stranded.
The way we used to do these classes is when we did group teacher trainings, we'd have 3 teachers teach one class. And they would each teach 20 minutes of the class. And so they would, collaborate, and they would create a sequence together, and, then they would co-teach it. And we've had people, even just teaching 20 minutes of a class, completely freeze. and like start stumbling through like their words. Like Jim and I were like, do we jump in? Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And so it's rare that that's happened, but you know, it can happen. So it is nice to know. It's like, you know, Jim or I are in class and we've got your back. You know, that it takes a little bit of the pressure away. But because yeah, sometimes there is like anxiety around it, or you know, nervousness, and you know, if you lose your way, if you lose like where you're at in your sequence, you know, I think all of us as beginner teachers have all had moments where like, fuck, what am I teaching? Like, what's happening next? Like, and then this is like everybody in child's pose.
Have you had one of those moments yet?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's just part of the human experience. It's part of, you know, learning how to teach, and yeah, and really kind of commanding a space and learning how to, I think, collaborate with your students, right? Because at some point you feel like there's this connection that you have where your students are kind of giving you the cues that you need to teach, right? They able, you know, to maybe try this pose out. Am I moving too fast as a teacher? Am I moving too slow? So you start connecting more and more with your students that way, instead of just, you know, just following the script or, you know, following your sequence to a T. And that's when I think things start to flow a little bit more from a teacher standpoint anyway.